sounds like it's all working as expected. So let's get started this morning. Good morning if you're joining us from the West Coast, or good afternoon if you're joining us from the East Coast, or perhaps somewhere else in the world. My name is Ken Shaw. I'm the CEO of SOS Online Backup. Welcome to an ongoing series of webinars we do here every week for existing partners and for prospective partners, people who are looking at joining the partnership team here at SOS. The format of today's webinar will be a presentation followed by a Q&A session, although I really ask everybody to use the questions tool within the GoToWebinar package to ask questions all the way along. And we generally find that we get the most out of these webinars when they're as interactive as possible. So please do ask your questions starting right now. If there's any topics you'd like to hear about, questions you've got, or if there's anything I say that you'd like to learn more about, please use the questions tool. Great, got a couple of people already typing in topics they'd like to hear about. Really like to encourage that. In terms of the presentation, we'll do a brief company overview. We'll then talk about the backup and DR industry in general. We'll look at traditional backup technology and then how online backup changes that. We'll look at the SOS technology stack and all the things that we do that are, particularly the things that we do that are unique. And then, of course, we'll turn to the core partnership program itself and how you can make revenue from selling online backup within your business. The intended audience is prospective or existing partners. And actually, by a show of hands, or virtual hands in this case, can you let me know if you're an existing partner or a prospective partner? I'd love it if everybody could just type into the questions tool, existing or prospective, and that'll help me tailor the presentation to whether we've got lots of people looking at becoming a partner or if we've got lots of existing partners here today. Of course, the Kindle giveaway will be announced at the end of the webinar, so stick around to the end to get those details about how you can win a Kindle. All right, let's dive in. So just a brief history on who SOS is. I imagine that if you're here today, you're at least passingly familiar with who we are. We're a company dedicated to online backup, as our name suggests, SOS Online Backup. Been around for a decade now, founded originally in Australia in 2001. We're now headquartered in the United States and have a global presence, 150 employees worldwide, offices in the United States, Australia, India, and Europe, and 11 data centers around the world. Since inception, we've had more than 3 million customers on our system, and we're growing rapidly. I make those comments for two purposes. Firstly, I think if you're looking to become one of our partners, everybody wants to know who they're getting into business with. But secondly, and most importantly, our growth figures. We make 80% of our revenue from our partner channel. So we are only successful if partners are successful. We are very successful because our partners are. So the thing that we are best at is enabling people like you to get into the online backup game and to sell online backup services to your customers or new customers very successfully. In terms of the market segment that we focus on, this slide sort of puts us into, gives you perspective of where we sit vis-a-vis some of our competition. We're very heavily focused on the small and micro business space. We do have consumer offerings, and they're very popular, and we've got some enterprise offerings, but our core focus is selling to SMBs, or most particularly the IT companies and service companies and VARs that serve those SMBs and sell to those SMBs. So we look to you as our customers, really, and then we work with you to help sell online backup through to your customers. And this slide really encapsulates what it is that we do. We take all of our know-how, expertise, software technology, hardware, global infrastructure. We then run it through the filter of your business, both from a branding standpoint and from a product offering standpoint. So we work with you to slice and dice our various product and service offerings to tailor them to your customer base. And the goal of the exercise is to help you drive incremental revenue, usually at a very high margin on a recurring revenue base from selling backup as a managed service. On the screen here, we've got some of the examples of the type of white labeling services that we do. And we'll see a lot more of this later on in the presentation. But pretty much anything you see with SOS on it can be branded to you, from the website to the software to the iPhone app, BlackBerry app, the server-side portal, shopping carts, marketing collateral, brochures, everything will be rebrandable. All right. One question here, is Mozy a partner of ours? Fred, no, Mozy's a big competitor of ours. So Mozy generally focuses on selling the Mozy brand, whereas what we focus on selling is the Fred Online Backup brand and working with you to customize a software solution for you to sell to your customers under your brand, whatever that might be. So turning now just to briefly look at the technology landscape, what's Online Backup competing against? In the consumer space, pretty much nothing. There's not much of a standard in the industry for consumer backup. Consumers generally know they should back up, but in fact do not back up. Our market research shows that less than 10% of consumers actually back up daily. Where they are backing up, it's usually a mishmash of solutions. There's some software involved, some hardware, often thumb drives, external USB hard disk drives. It's nearly always not off-site backup. It's usually not encrypted or secure or automated. So generally, there's a vacancy in the consumer space when it comes to backup technology. And we're selling into that vacancy. Moving to the SMB space, it's a little bit different. In the SMB space, we're generally competing against an existing backup solution. So most small businesses have some sort of disaster recovery plan in place, even if it's a really, really bad one. They usually are pretty bad. Those solutions are generally what we call, it's a bit of a mouthful, but hardware-based, centrally architected backup solutions. I'll explain a little bit more about that on the next slide. What it boils down to is that there's some hardware, some software, and some labor. Hardware is often tape or disk, predominantly tape. Tape is still the major technology platform used by backup today. Software is then some sort of software system which will automate the backing up to that hardware component. And then the labor is all of the soft costs associated with installing, configuring, running, checking on, managing, and using that solution. We often find that the labor component, although often hidden, is as much as 100% of the cost of the hard components, the software and the hardware. And we'll see a total cost of ownership analysis in a few slides' time. In the enterprise, similar sort of analytical frameworks used to approach it. Generally, the sticker price on each of those elements is a lot higher. And where most of our partners are focused is selling to consumers or small businesses. So how is online backup different? Well, the underlying components are the same. It's still software, hardware, services, and support. But it's all wrapped up in a software as a service subscription model delivered over the internet to your customers in a set and forget deployment, which makes it both cheaper for them to run and extremely simple for them to use. In terms of how online backup's going as an industry, we're growing rampantly. Tape backup sales are collapsing, and most of those dollars that were being funneled to tape purchases are now going to on-premises disk-based backup solutions and more to the cloud. In fact, a recent survey by CTO Edge magazine found that more than 70% of CTOs and CIOs surveyed are intending on moving all or part of their backup load to cloud-based backup. So there's actually a great quote from one of our partners on the basis of this survey. If we don't sell our customers a cloud-based backup solution, someone else will. So why not us? And that's really the fundamental premise of today's presentation, that if you, just picking on some audience members, Mark Summers or Jim Evans or Fred Darland, if you don't sell your customers online backup, someone else is going to. Either Mozy or Carmon, they are going to move their backup load to the cloud. So what we do is we help you to capture that opportunity and sell to those customers and sell them online backup, which they're almost moved to in the next year or two. But we can put you in a position so that you can actually be the person selling them that service. So let's look at some cost figures. Here we're looking at both the cost to the customer and the revenue to you as a partner. So this comes from a real-life customer that came across to our platform with one of our partners. And the tape solution they were looking at using for their environment, and this was 7 or 8 employees and a server, was going to cost, all told, $6,146 to put in. That's just for the hardware and the software, not the labor. And over a 5-year period was going to cost roughly $9,000, $9,100. The equivalent of deployment with online backup was only going to cost only did end up costing $1,000 a year. So their first year cost was 1/6 of the hardware equivalent. and the 5-year cost was 1/2. So looking at that, you might think to yourself, well, gee, if there's that much less revenue involved, obviously, me, the reseller, I'm going to lose money here. But actually, the opposite is true. Typical margins on the hardware and software involved is small single-digit percentage points. So in the case of this particular solution, the reseller was going to make $480 or something. I can't actually remember the specific figure. It was around $500. Selling our online backup service, branded to the partner ended up making $500 a year, every year on a 5-year contract. So actually got a $2,500 check, basically immediately. So what it nets out to is a much lower cost for the end user, a much higher commission for the reseller, and a much better backup overall. So a better backup at a better price is what we say. And so let's look at some of those technological superiorities that online backup has over hardware-based backup. From a deployment standpoint, online backup is super simple. It's software which you can deploy over the network, either with an agent on every machine you're protecting or in an agentless configuration. Coverage, hardware-based backup has always struggled with distributed user data. So laptops have nearly always sat outside the enterprise backup regime, and I use enterprise loosely there, generally even in a small business environment. The workstations and servers are backed up, the laptops never are. With online backup, every single device is connected to the backup cloud. So it doesn't matter if it's a laptop roaming in and out of the enterprise or remote workforce, a mobile phone, an iPhone, or a BlackBerry anywhere on the WAN, they're always connected to the backup cloud and always protected. It's a major benefit of online backup over hardware-based backup. There is no media, so all of the difficulties associated with taking media off-site are gone. From a recovery standpoint, anybody who's ever had to do a full environment recovery from tape knows that it can be a 3- or 4-day affair, extremely time-intensive and extremely frustrating and error-prone. With online backup, recovery couldn't be simpler. You've got immediate real-time access to your data from the cloud. You can recover it from an iPhone, a BlackBerry, a laptop, any sort of browser, and you've got that data immediately. So your recovery window literally collapses to zero. As soon as you need a file, you can get that file. Security, traditional hardware solutions are not encrypted, nor is generally the software systems that will pump the data to those hardware repositories. Whereas with online backup, it's industry standard to use military-grade encryption. SOS actually uses 3 separate encryption layers for your data. Access to data. With traditional backup, it's something that only the IT department can do, whereas with online backup, you can actually let all of the users manage their own recoveries, so that to do a recovery, they just log into their portal and grab the data they need. They don't even need to trouble the IT department. And so from a cost standpoint, as we saw on the immediately preceding slide, online backup's a lot cheaper for the end user, but then from a revenue standpoint for you, the reseller, it's a lot richer. So it really is a wonderful transition from old clunky technology, which has never worked particularly well, to new software as a service-based backup, which is cheaper for the end customer and provides more profit for you, the reseller. So in terms of what's happening in the market, this slide is it contains some economic statistics, but it's in answer to 2 questions we get. The first question is, have I missed the boat? Have I left this too late to get into the industry? And the second is, how big is this industry really going to get? And so the mathematics around this is as follows. The global backup industry is roughly $10 billion US per year, and that's dollars spent in enterprise, small business, and consumer land, and that's divided between hardware, software, and services. Of that $10 billion, we estimate that online backup is going to grow to take 60 to 70% market share of all backup. So we're looking at a total market size of $6 or $7 billion in 5 years. Today, the online backup industry is about $1 billion annual industry. So we're looking at the online backup industry growing to being 5 or 6 times bigger than it currently is.